Hi! In this fingerstyle ukulele lesson, we're going to be looking at the myth of the independent thumb. Now, if you've not done any fingerstyle work before, and when I say fingerstyle, I mean this kind of rhythmic pattern with our right hand that replaces a strum, essentially, then I highly recommend you have a look at the link that I'm going to put at the top of the screen right now, which is to show you the basics of fingerstyle playing. There's a two-part little course that I did, and I recommend that you do follow those first. But if you've done that, or if you're fairly confident doing these nice sort of little repetitive patterns, whatever they might be, then this lesson might be interesting for you. So what do I mean by the myth of the independent thumb? Well, a lot of this picking revolves around the sound of your thumb playing an alternating bass line, going backwards and forwards between two strings. And that's kind of the rhythmic heartbeat of the music. But then a melody happening over the top, maybe something like this. And what I was doing at the beginning was, to you as the listener, playing two things at the same time, both of those parts, like this. And that's why I say it's the myth of the independent thumb. Because whilst you're hearing two parts, I'm most definitely not thinking about playing two parts at the same time. That's just too much for our brains to cope with, especially if we're going to sing, especially if we're going to be changing chords and playing whole songs with this. It's very difficult to think, I've got to keep my thumb doing this thing and my fingers doing this. Now, if you think about a piano player, they do that all the time. Their left hand plays one thing, their right hand plays the other. But there's not that clear delineation with us. We're asking one hand to do the rhythmic part of the alternating thumb and play the melody, but the other hand is also involved in both of those things. It's changing the chord so that our rhythmic thumb is playing the right notes, but it's also adding and removing fingers to make the melody part that our fingers are playing. So the hands are sort of intertwined. There's not that clear left and right that we get on a piano. But I'm absolutely not thinking about two things happening at the same time. But if I can convince you as the listener that two things are happening at the same time, then I've clearly got across my musical message to you. Let's have a look at this first little example. Now, this is a very simple little riff. I use it in the song Papa's on the Housetop, and you can find a full lesson on my Patreon channel for Papa's on the Housetop. But we're just going to take this one little riff and repeat it. Now, you can see that there's never more than two notes happening at the same time. And if you look at the G and C strings, you can see that we've got a G, a C, a G, a C. Those two strings are being dealt with by our thumb. Don't make the mistake of trying to use too many fingers. That thumb needs to go backwards and forwards. It will be nigh on impossible to do this, certainly with any kind of rhythmic bounce, if you use more than a thumb and two fingers. So your thumb is taking care of the G and C strings. And in this example, we don't have to fret those strings. We're not changing chord. Over the top of that, our fingers, my index finger is going to play the E string. My second finger is going to take care of the A string. We're going to hear this. Played it twice there through that two-bar pattern. So if I try and do those two things at the same time, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to cope. And when I was first learning to fingerpick, that's what happened to me. I tried to try and learn one part. I just learned the accompaniment part through the whole song. And then I just learned the melody part through the whole song. And I think, I'm nearly there. And then I try and put them together. And of course, it just wouldn't work. Because these fingers and thumbs aren't acting independently at all. They're acting as one unit. I have to think vertically. And when I say vertically, I mean like looking at the paper and going, what's happening on this beat? What's happening on this beat? What's happening on this beat? So let's have a look at how we can create this illusion without actually having to do two things at once. On our first beat, we're going to be playing, well, essentially the position for a C7 chord. And we're going to use our thumb on the G string and our second finger on the A string. Now remember, our second finger is always the A string, our index finger is always going to be the E string, and our thumb is taking care of two strings. Now, that isn't a hard and fast rule in all music, but it's quite a common way of doing, but certainly of the examples in this video, that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to pinch at the same time my thumb and my second finger. I'm playing one of my bass notes and one of my melody notes at the same time. Then I'm going to take off my left hand finger and I'm going to play again my second finger on the A string, but my thumb is going to move across to the C string and I'm going to pinch those two, my first and third strings. So my melody and my bass part, my alternating bass, are currently just lining up and happening at the same time at the moment, which is handy. So just try that. Outside two strings, your A and G, with your left hand finger down. Then move your thumb across and take that finger off and pluck your C and A strings. Okay. Now our thumb is going to go back to the G string and we're actually going to hold down the third fret now on the E string. So now we're going to pinch again, thumb and first finger, G string and E string. Now actually, if I've got a high fourth as I have, they're the same note in the same octave. If you've got a low fourth, don't worry, this will work great on a low fourth as well, and you'll have two of the same notes but in different octaves at that point. But for me, they're the same. But don't worry, I pinch those with my thumb and index finger, and then in between these beats, so everything's been on the beat, 1, 2, 3, and now we've got an and in between this note and the next note. So we've got a pinch there, then our second finger plays the open A string, and then our thumb comes down on the last beat of the bar and lands on the C string. That's the first bar. So we get this. One more time. And the second bar is exactly the same, except we don't play that extra note in between beats 3 and 4, the open A string. So the first time the melody is da 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 da. The second time it's da da da, no more. So we just miss out that second finger. Everything else is the same. So the whole pattern is like this. We still add that thumb note on the end to keep that going. So I'm going to play it and I just want you to focus in on my thumb and see what my thumb is doing and just watch how it moves. And then watch it again and focus in on what my fingers are doing. See, my thumb is just doing this all the time, and my fingers are either doing something at the same time as my thumb or in between my thumb's stroke on the strings, or they're not doing anything, like on that last beat where I'm just playing the thumb. And that's really about all we can do. Thumb and finger at the same time, thumb followed by finger, or thumb on its own. And those simple moves are how we can create this illusion of two things happening at the same time. Let's have a look at another one. This is the pattern from the song Deep Ellum Blues. And this does the same thing, except the pattern lasts for 2 bars. Then we do the same pattern again, the same 2 bars again, but we miss off the last melody note. Why do we do that? We did it on Papa's on the Housetop. Well, quite often these melodies are a bit like a call and response or a question and an answer. In the first one, Papa's on the Housetop, there's a question and an answer. Here's the question. Where's the butter? The answer. In the fridge. I know that's me just being facetious there, but actually notice how the question tends to go up at the end and the answer doesn't. So that's the sort of thing we're used to in language. It sounds better to resolve that, to answer the question, than it does to just keep doing the same thing. That just sounds like an annoying child asking you the same thing over and over again. We're going to do the same thing in Deep Ellen Blues. The melody for Deep Ellen Blues is this. So notice the last time we missed out that note. It was the same note again. In fact, a lot of these notes are the same. I think the only one that's different in this one is the 3rd fret of the 1st string. We're also using that 1st fret we had before, and the open, and the 3rd fret on the E string. The only extra note we've got now is the 3rd fret on the A string. So I'll play the pattern for Deep Ellen Blues, and then we'll look at how we can think of it vertically in slices, so that the end result, the end illusion, is that we're hearing the melody and the alternating bass. Right, so it does sound like we've got that happening and at the same time. But I'm just thinking about what happens on each beat with my thumb and one of my 2 fingers. So let's break it down. We're playing the 3rd fret of the A string like a C chord, and I'm playing my G string with my thumb and my A string with my 2nd finger. Now this melody has the same note repeated twice at the beginning. So I'm going to pinch that note and my thumb on the G string, and then pinch again but with my thumb on the C string. So the first bit is just that. Pinch, pinch. I'm using my 2nd finger and my thumb and just moving my thumb over. Then our thumb's going to go back to the G string and our melody note goes down to the 1st fret and we pinch again, thumb and 2nd finger. Then we take off that left hand finger and our thumb goes back to the C string and we pinch thumb and 2nd finger. So we get this. So far I haven't used my index finger because every bit of the melody has been on the A string, just thumb and 2nd finger. Now I'm going to bring my index finger in because the melody now drops down onto the E string, 3rd fret, and my bass part, my alternating bass, is now on the G string, so my thumb is going to play G string, my index is going to play E string. Okay. Both the same note again, just as we had in Papa's on the Housetop. Now, here's an interesting thing. My melody note is going to cross over now to the open A string, and my thumb's going to move as well. So I'm going to move my thumb across, and I'm going to stop using my index finger, and I'm going to use my 2nd finger, and I'm just going to pinch the A and C strings at the same time. And then I've finished, and all I have to do now is allow my thumb to go back to the G and the C, just to keep the rhythm going. So that 2nd bar sounds like this. Let's put them both together. Okay. And then on the next 2 bars we do exactly the same thing, but we just don't play the finger note on that last melody note. Instead, we just let the thumb play the C string on its own. So the 2nd time we get this. Put both of them together, see if you can play along with me. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. we might do that whole pattern again as many times as we need to on that chord. Now, of course, in most songs, at some point you're going to change chord and the melody's going to be in different places, and it might mean that your picking pattern has to change slightly to accommodate where the melody goes. But if you can get these two patterns going, where you're not thinking about two things, but you're giving the illusion that two things are happening at the same time, these are really, really going to get you used to doing that, get this idea under your fingers, and eventually you might even start to convince yourself that you have a thumb that just does its own thing all the time. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.